What's up, Heritage family? How is everyone doing today?
What's up, y'all? How's it going?
Yeah, man, it's been a fun week. Week 2. That's where we're at.
This week, like talking with God, not just at Him. I think this idea of prayer has got to be expanded for sure.
Yeah. The understanding of prayer. I love the question though of sometimes like why it feels so difficult. I'm sure most of us have that moment growing up, even at some point in your life, like trying to figure out like, I don't know what to say. It's like that moment of like, I don't know what to do with my hands. I don't know what to say. I don't know all the right lingo. I don't know the big words and I don't know how to sound good when I pray. I feel like that's something sometimes some people struggle with. It's like, I don't know how to do this. It's just awkward, right?
We really do make prayer hard.
Yeah, for whatever reason.
I don't understand it because I think when we're like having conversations with each other, like, I don't know, this maybe females do or whatever, and they have this issue, like they rehash all the conversations. Well, I should have been a higher pitch there. I should have been slowed down there or whatever. I should have said this word instead. And like, I guess that's not really my MO for things or whatever. But we do that with our prayers.
We do.
And it's like, we're all up in our head about the words that we're saying. And it's just like, you were totally missing it because like prayer is not about impressive words. It's about this intimate connection that we're looking for. And, and if we're making it all about this impressive words, we're missing the heart of it. Yeah. We see in scripture, there's a couple of like illustrations and parables that go through there. And that idea of prayer is about like others looking at you, like you're missing the whole piece of it. And like the goal of your connection, if that's what that is, like that's going to be your reward is what scripture says.
Right.
But instead, if you're like, your goal is to connect with God, that's going to be the reward that goes along with it. So I just think there's a big misnomer in our view of prayer because like we're super worried about like how we sound when we pray and about the words that we use and about all of this peripheral pieces of it. And if we really come back to the idea of what is prayer as communication and connection with God, then I think we can step back from a lot of those things because I don't think twice about saying the wrong word in front of Mandy.
Yeah.
Like I don't think twice about like stumbling over a word or having to pause to regain my thoughts. None of that happens with her because like we're in a close community and connection. And so it's a safe relationship.
Right.
And so because of that, we're very, very easy going with our conversation.
I think a lot of people are okay with the idea of like praying to themselves and things like that. Like I remember we've been walking through the Every Man a Warrior class and there was a couple guys. There's a specific part in that class where you practice praying out loud in a room full of other men.
What a cool discipline though, like to force yourself into doing this because nobody really enjoys it or is like, but it's a great habit to have.
Yeah. And I've gone through this class now twice with a group of guys and it's been interesting to me to come to the understanding that a lot of people, and in this context, men struggle with this idea of like, I specifically remember one of the guys saying like, I was praying to myself in that moment that I wouldn't get called on to pray out loud.
Xavier in his little testimony the other day. Michael said something very similar to it.
Yeah, exactly. But the cool thing about that is like they talked about in that video when we did, was it Easter? I think it was the Easter testimony video. They talked specifically about that because later on, a few weeks later, after that class was over, on Easter, God was using them. They were being used in that moment to pray with other people in an altar situation. And so it's just really cool. It was a really cool moment to hear like, the practicality of it and how the internal struggle with it. But then when they actually started working through that and coming to a better understanding of it, they realized, oh, okay. Like, yeah, I can do this. This isn't really what I made it out to be in my own head, so.
I think we can be honest though, like to make the statement, like prayer is hard sometimes.
Yeah.
Because like we come in and we get distracted.
Oh man.
We don't know what to say. Like sometimes we feel like you're talking to the ceiling. And like, I think we're being truthful. Like I've had those moments, like even in ministry where you're going through all the correct motions and you're doing the right things, but you just feel this disconnect that is there. And I think we have to acknowledge that because like there is that like reality and that truth there. But I think a lot of that stems from these like unreal expectations that we have about prayer because sometimes it's like, well, the only reason I'm praying is to see a result in my circumstance. And if God doesn't do my circumstance, then my prayer wasn't valid. And I think once again is missing the point of prayer.
For sure.
It's this idea like prayer isn't just about getting God to do something.
Right. It's not a genie in a bottle.
Connecting to him. And I think when we bring that right perspective into it to go, dude, my situation may not have changed, but I've changed as a result of my connection to my prayer with God. And I think that's a totally different place to go, because prayer isn't just a discipline. It's this doorway to relationship. And as we walk through that doorway in this relationship with God, like there's all sorts of things that God can do. Yes, God can do the miraculous and change the circumstance. But I think more often than not, what I've realized is that prayer changes me versus changes the circumstance.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. It all comes back to that. It was a saying, I can't remember off the top of my head, but basically it's like seeking the hand, the person, not the thing that is given through the hand. I'm totally botching this, but you get what I'm saying. It's like we're
chasing the hand, pursuing the hand of God, not the face of God.
Exactly. And so it's that mentality of it's the closeness, it's the intimacy, it's the relationship of God, not the outcome of our prayers all the time. And so I think that's an important element to always keep in mind, for sure.
Yeah, I love where Mandy said on Sunday, we're just talking about like the vital nature of prayer in our life, is that like we sometimes will treat it like a luxury, but really it's an essential. And I think that like that mindset says a lot, because luxuries are things that are good for like big days and big moments. Like you pull out the luxury suit for the one day a year, you pull out the luxury handbag when you're dressed up and all fancy, but then you got the everyday stuff that's there. And we treat prayer like it's just for the big days. And it's just like, oh man, when this circumstance is really rough, then that's when I pull that out. Oh, and like things are really difficult, that's when I go to prayer. And I think we're totally missing the context of the idea that prayer is absolutely essential for our everyday lives.
Oh, absolutely. In any relationship, it's communication.
Totally. So this week we have been going through the Lord's Prayer. Like you're probably getting tired of the Lord's Prayer now, because you've been doing it like day in and day out. I promise we're not going to camp out here really long, but I do want you to see like from a 30,000 foot view, because you've been getting like the 5 foot view of the prayer, like breaking it down in like words and little tiny sections. But there's a couple of things that we see listed in the Lord's Prayer as the disciples say, hey, Lord, teach us to pray. And how do we do this?
Right.
This is the Lord's example about how to do this. Now, if you don't like the Lord's Prayer model that we've been doing all week, just go to the back of your book. There's several in there. There's the pray model, there's the ACTS model, there's the 5-finger model that you can use for your kiddos as well. And so there's lots of resources in the very back of the books, that resource section. So you can turn there. But once again, we're going to kind of use this like reoccurring theme that you've been looking at. So like you see at the beginning of the Lord's Prayer, our Father. And I think that key of the foundation of this is start with relationship. You got to realize that God's not distant. It's like dad. It's like father right there, that mindset that he's close. The next thing you see is your kingdom come. It's this idea of surrender, of surrendering your priorities and saying, okay, God, I'm going to adopt your priorities and not mine. So like, I'm going to give you my plans, my desires, my dreams, and expectation that I want to pursue and I want to accomplish yours. Next thing we see is give us this day. It's this idea of like, ask for what you need, trust in his provision. So like, this is that moment where you come through your laundry list of like, my grandma's sick, my puppy's got like tummy, whatever it is, like you're praying for that day. The next thing we see is this idea of forgiveness. This is this opportunity that we have to really confess, go through your world and go like, God, is there things in my life that I need to get rid of? Is there like actions that took place yesterday in my life that I need to probably like ask for forgiveness for? Like, did I treat my kids right this morning? Did I treat my wife right this morning? Like, what is it that I need to confess in that moment? And then finally it says like, lead us. And so this idea of inviting God's guidance and protection into your life to say, okay, God, I want you to lead my steps, and I want you to like thwart the attacks of the enemy. It just give me a clear vision and direction for my steps. And I love that, because the Lord's Prayer isn't just something to memorize, but it's this map for your everyday prayers. And so you begin to latch on those 5 things, like you're going to see in these prayer models that we provide at the end of the book. Like it's just a simple model for you to have a really basic and easy conversation with the Lord.
Right. Yeah, they're great models for any of you that may be watching or listening to this, where you're like, I don't even know really where to begin with this. And these models are just, again, they're just simple models to just get the conversation starting. When you're struggling to try to like really like, I don't know what to do, I don't know what to say, I feel awkward. These are just great options for you to try and speaking out loud in your life or wherever you're at, in your office or at home or wherever it may be. And I love breaking this down, because I see words like surrender, trust, inviting God's guidance and all these different things. And what that really speaks to me is like, oh, this is again, your will, not my will. It's really about like, Lord, I'm pursuing you because I know you have my best interests at heart. You're already in my tomorrow. You know what it's coming down the road for me. And it's really just about that understanding. And again, of there's that word that I always come back to is that surrender mentality. It's just about, Lord, what are you, I'm communing with you. I'm speaking to you, Lord. I am surrendering my life, and I do trust you. And I'm putting everything that I have at your feet. And I think that's just a key element that we always have to remember.
We say it again. Mm-hmm. Like, prayer is not about impressive words.
Right.
It's about an intimate connection.
Exactly.
And so as you're going through those 5 lines, like, that's what you're doing, is you're creating this connection with God, of going like, God, I want to be in tune with your will. I want to hear your voice that's there.
Right.
But I think the other thing that we have to like really realize when it comes to prayer is that prayer is not just talking. It's listening, it's watching, it's walking with God. It's this whole idea is that prayer was never meant to be a monologue.
Right.
And I think a lot of us, that's what our prayer lives have become, is that we like zip through in 7 minutes all the things that we want and need in our life, but we haven't taken that moment of like pause and reflection and silence for us to hear back from the Lord.
Yeah. That's one of the most important, like one of the models that we have in the back is the prayer one. And I love that one because the why is yielding.
Yeah.
That's what it basically, and it's just that whole emphasis of, yes, you praise, you repent, you ask, and you do all of these things. But one of the key elements that I think we overlook and we go past so quickly is the stillness, and just being still, quiet, and allowing sometimes the Lord to speak to you in those moments. Getting out the journal, and sometimes God speaks something very clearly to you in that moment. Sometimes He doesn't. But it's the intentionality of saying, okay, I'm going to be quiet, because it's so easy for us to just read my Bible, said a quick prayer. All right, I did my due diligence, check the box, I'm out the door, I'm going to work. But it's those moments of just saying, okay, I'm going to be still, I'm going to be quiet. If the Lord wants to speak and move or remind me or convict me of something, whatever it may be, this is that moment. And then it just comes back to that discipline and that mentality of, this is the stillness and the quietness that I'm going to just sit and allow the Lord to speak to me now.
We even talked about a little bit last week about like this idea of like going out into nature.
Yep.
And we encourage you to go out in nature to like listen for God to reveal Himself through creation.
Right.
But there's some intentionality in what we said is like, don't take your phone, don't have your headphones in, like don't put yourself in a place of distraction. And really there's some intentionality that needs to continue into this week. And now do it in nature, do it not in nature, whatever on that piece of it. But that idea of like pausing and expecting it is so important, that you're positioning yourself to hear from the Lord.
Yep.
Because as we've said, like, conversation is what the goal of this is that you're in a dialogue with God. And when you leave room for God to speak back into your circumstance and situation, you'll be amazed at how often you're going to hear the Lord's voice and how confident you are in hearing His voice. Right. Because I can tell you how many times that I have been praying about things, and I know I may be out in everyday life doing something like this is not like my normal prayer time in the morning, but like I'm praying about circumstances and situations. And as I'm walking through my day, like the Lord impresses upon me, like, hey, you were talking about this morning. Like, here, let me show you something. And now I want you to stop and watch this. And like God is illustrating in real life what He's trying to teach me in a biblical way. And it's just because I left room in my life. So I've talked about this a lot. My vehicle doesn't have music on. Like I just drive in silence, and some people are like, they're the creepiest person ever. Like you're a serial killer or something.
It's like, I don't know how you do that.
It's perfectly silent in my vehicle at all times. Like it's just weird. No music's on. But one of the reasons I do that is it just allows my mind this like margin and this space to just be clear. And oftentimes when I'm driving down the road, like because my mind is able to just be clear and free, the Lord can speak to me as I'm going here and there, because I am in this like conversation with the Lord to be like, man, I'm processing my prayer time. I'm processing my devotion time for that Lord. And then God's responding and
you're making space throughout your day.
Right.
It's not just this dedicated. I mean, now I will say this: it is valuable to sometimes to make sure that you do have a set aside time.
Oh, 100%.
Absolutely.
Yeah, this isn't like only do prayer time in the car or silent. No, this is like an extension of making your space. Because what does Paul say? Pray without ceasing. Pray at all times. Like this attitude of prayer. And once again, it's the opportunity for God to be able to speak back.
It's a continuation of it. I love that. I think sometimes we can get so religious in the mentality of it. I'm sitting down, I'm reading my Bible, I'm praying. I did good today, but it's this continual mentality of, no, this is a constant conversation with God throughout our day, because like what you're saying is you may have your quiet time and prayer moment in the morning, but then God may speak something very clearly to you later on that afternoon about something that you prayed for or whatever it may be later on that day. And so it's just that, again, praying without ceasing.
And I think both are important, because like the intimate prayer time in your prayer closet, like you're like before the distractions of the day, like all of those things, that's vital. But I also think that sometimes we put too much pressure on it and we negate like those little moments with the Lord, because like it's not supposed to be pressure. It's supposed to be presence. And so as we're inviting God's presence into our life, it really can change us. Cause I think about it this way, like there are conversations that I have with like my loved ones, like via phone, and like we have like long conversations, and honestly now it's all video chat. Like it's FaceTime really is like we're close in that. But guess what? I'm still sending text messages throughout the day.
Right.
And like, that's kind of what these other moments are. It's like, yes, it's not negating the need for a FaceTime call, but it is like, hey, let me give you little updates, or, hey, here's little needs, or, hey, this is going on in my world. And like, that's the chance that we have with the Lord.
That's exactly what I was thinking too. Like that was like, what would your marriage be like right now if the only conversation you had with your spouse was in the morning? You know what I mean? This is not going to work. It's that kind of like there's moments throughout the day where I call Ray. Hey, how are you doing? How's the kids? I know you're homeschooling right now. Are you about to pull your hair out? Do I need to come get you and go on coffee? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just that continuation throughout the day. That relationship is not built on one single conversation that happens in a day. It's a continuation. Right. It's a relationship.
Let me also just encourage you, because I think as we step into this habit, we're constantly evaluating our prayer lives, and we're really like grading our prayers. But I want you to know is like, God's not grading our prayers. Like he's just excited that we're showing up to the conversation.
Sure. Yeah.
And so let me take some pressure off you this week about like trying to perform in prayer. Don't worry about your words. Don't worry about like this perfect piece of it, but just be willing to step into a conversation with God, because all of that other stuff is peripheral. If you can take the pressure off and just build intimacy and connection with God, that's the goal of prayer. So this week, I'd encourage you, try the Lord's Prayer model, try the pray model, try the Acts model, whichever one that you want, just getting in and exposing on it. I'd also say is like, that means get on a prayer walk, go for a prayer walk where you're just letting your God speak to you. Because I can tell you, I was on one not too long ago, and God began to really give me a burden for some different people in my life, because I came across them in my walk, and God like used that walk or that quietness in my day to like go, okay, you need to do something here and kind of respond in the midst of this. But I also encourage you, is maybe this is one of those habits you need to try at least once this week. So you only got a couple of days, but try journaling.
Yes.
So like write your prayer out. And one of the things that I love, and this is one of the things I've encouraged people to do for years, is write your request and the opportunities for God to show up in like blue or black ink. And then when God does respond, what I want you to do is go back and write the answer to prayer in red, and use your same journal. Like this is, because here's what I love about this is that when you're flipping through your journal, what you're going to realize is there's tons of blue and black.
Right.
But then as you flip through the pages and you see this red ink on that, what you're realizing is like, it's building faith, because you're like, God has answered this, and he's answered this, and he's answered this, and he's answered this. And so now when you come back in with more blue and black ink, like there's a confidence that red ink is not going to be far behind. So I think that journaling aspect will be really good. And I think just as a reminder is keep the conversation going, like be intentional to keep praying about all the things going on in your life.
Yeah, for sure.
2 final questions.
Here's the questions. Here they come. Just
Number one, how did I become more like Jesus this week?
Right.
Number 2, who did I help become more like Jesus this week?
Yeah.
And I think as we're talking about prayer, this is a really vital place, because we can naturally become more like Jesus, because he's can, as Mandy said this week, John chapter 15, remain in me and I in you. And that pruning process all comes from our remaining in the Lord. So like the dead areas, the areas that need to be pruned and cut back and destroyed, but also the areas that just need to be trimmed so that we can grow or become more fruitful in those areas. All of that comes from remaining in him. So
that's good.
Write those answers down in your book. Like I say that like in not just a reflective question. I really want you to encourage yourself, because at the end of this journey, what I want you to be able to do is go back through your book and be going, no, like week 1, this is what I saw God do in my life. This is the person that God used me to reach. Week 2, this is what God did in my life. This is the person that God saw me do in my reach in my life. Because I want you to be encouraged that God is going to continue to walk with you through this journey, and then also that you can make a difference in your world.
Yeah,
it's important. Right?
Yeah, no, we encourage you guys, jump, just start somewhere. Because I promise you, when you do step out and you do start that conversation, there will be a deepening, because Scripture's very clear. When we draw near to him, he draws near to us. And so it's just that mentality of just starting and just watch what God does as you grow in your faith. He will show up.
As I said, future weeks or past weeks, let us know on social media. Shoot us a DM. Yeah. Tell us a story about what God's doing in your life, because we would love to celebrate with you the activity of God that's happening inside of your story. Mm-hmm. And then also, what an incredible testimony for you to like share with your like social world about what God's doing inside of your life during this season. So don't keep this all to yourself. Kind of share it. Go public with your faith and the declaration of what's going to happen with that. But we will be continuing our series on Sunday, and I can't wait till next week's podcast. You're not going to want to miss it. It's awesome.
It's going to be good. Love you guys. So excited to continue this conversation, this series. It's going to be good. We can't wait to see you guys.
See ya.